live Q&A. Our guest today is world-renowned powerlifter who, as well as being inducted into the Powerlifting Hall of Fame, has over 26 world titles to his name and holds over 50 world records. I think I read a quote, Tiny, somewhere saying you have over so many world records. I think you lose count at some point. That's awesome. He now runs his own gym and training consultancy based out of Texas. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome to Fat Tony's Tiny Meeker. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And actually, of all those records, the one thing that matters is four-time all-time world records. That's all that matters.
Wow. I think Jack's definitely want to ask you a little bit more about that.
Well, I would love to I was looking into your history and your accomplishments, and as far as I could tell, you broke your own bench press world record 3 times, right? Most recently this year at 11:25. Yes. I was blown away by that. I was blown the fuck away by that. And I was curious to, because we got a lot of fitness people in our community. If you could kind of like take us back to the beginning and like tell us like, how did you get started with this whole thing? Were you lifting as a young man, as like, when you were a kid, or, and then how did you get from where you were to this, this incredible amount of record breaking and Powerlifting Hall of Fame and all of these great accomplishments? I'd love to just kind of hear a little bit about your story.
Well, I would say I probably started lifting weights when I was probably 10 or 12 years old, out of the house with those concrete weights made by Sears. And you had concrete inside with plastic wrapped around. And actually, believe it or not, I actually still have them in my garage at my parents' place. But anyway, I played football, basketball, baseball, all sports and stuff. And then, the one problem with sports is sometimes it goes by what you look like. It doesn't really matter how great you are. It really depends on what you look like if you go further in your sport. When I was a sophomore in high school, I started powerlifting. And powerlifting, what I loved about it was it didn't matter what you look like. It just depends on were you strong or not, So I powerlifted in high school. I won regionals and all that, qualified for state. But unfortunately didn't realize we qualified for state, so I never went to state. And it wasn't again until I was about 22 years old where I started powerlifting again outside of high school. And when I first kind of got in, it was more just for the fun of it, just to see how strong I was. And I actually benched 600. Actually, I went back up when I was 15. I was 280. I was 240, benched 280. When I was a junior in high school at 16 years old, I actually weighed 165 and benched 315. And my senior in high school, I was 180, benching 350. My first year in college, I actually played some basketball, but I was 220, benching 420, and I could actually dunk. But at age 22, I could bench 600 pounds at 22 years old. It's the first time I benched 600, and I actually did that raw. So when I got back into sport is when I first started playing with the equipment and stuff. I took second in the state, my first meet, second state, my second meet. After that, I took first, and I never looked back. If I ever lost first, it's only because I had a bad day or something. But almost every one of my contests that I placed, I was on the podium every single contest ever.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you were a prodigious athlete. I mean, to be able to bench press that and be able to have the vertical leap to dunk.
Yeah.
You must have just been a natural athlete of a lot of different varieties, huh?
Yeah, football, I played defensive tackle. The guy beside me was 6'3", 295. He went and played for LSU. I made all district, but I was only 5'9", 181 pounds playing defensive tackle, So to go into college, that's not what they're looking for. And actually, when I went to try to walk on to CM Houston, they asked me if I was there for baseball. And I was like, I hate baseball. I'm not here for baseball. My mom's like, oh, no, tell me you're here for baseball. Heck, if I knew baseball players made that kind of money, maybe I would have played baseball. But, I could have stayed short and played the game. But, we never would have saw the Tiny Meeker we see now if that would have happened. But, when I got back into the sport, it was still kind of a hobby. I was working in nightclubs back then. I was bouncing. I was bodyguarding. So I wanted to be strong. My best friend at the time was a national collegiate champion who was 198 with a 685 squat and deadlift and a 420 bench, and he actually played football for Annapolis and Texas A&M. So, you know, I looked at him. You know, the good part for me is growing up, everyone that got me in the sport and everyone I was kind of around taught me good form and technique at a much younger age, which took me in the long run. I mean, I was never, you know, bad on my training. I was never bad on my form. But to be really honest, it was still a hobby to me. I never really took it serious when I first kind of got back in the sport. You know, I just did it for fun. And, you know, when I first got in, like I said, I was only benching around 5. When I did my first 606 world record, I did that actually at Anthony Clark's gym here in Houston, Texas. And Anthony, back in the days, was the strongest bencher in the entire world, and actually powerlifter. He was the first guy benching 80 pounds. He did it reverse. So to do it in front of Anthony was even more exciting, you know, because I looked up to Anthony big time. And, you know, people just kept on talking about, you know, if you did this, you did that in your training, you would bench this. But I just kept doing what I did. And eventually it was 700, then it was 800. And then when I started missing, trying to get 900, I was actually going to meets like every month, try to lift in the meet to fill 900 pounds, because the gym I trained at, you could only bench 855 pounds max on the bar. So I was going to all these meets and I was bombing all the time because I just wanted to feel the weight, but I wasn't feeling it in training. And then one day I'm in a meet in Houston, and this guy named Randy Risher walks up to me and goes, "Hey, you Tiny Meeker?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Hey, you looking for sponsors?" I said, "Sponsors? I'm always looking for sponsors." He goes, I go, "What you got?" He goes, "Well, I build gyms." I go, "You build gyms?" He goes, "Yeah, well, you looking for money? What do you mean equipment?" And he builds gyms. But can you give me 1,000%? He goes, "Yeah, I can do that." I can. Within months, I went from I think it was maybe an 842 to an 870 to a 942, like that. And that was my first all-time world record. I had the all-time 308. I did it in LA in front of Scott Milson, who had the world record. And I opened with 870, which was the funniest moment in my entire powerlifting career. I hit my opener. I went in the back, and everyone's running, changing their bench shirts. It was the funniest thing you ever saw. And I decided to go for 915, which would have broke Scott Middleton's record by 1 pound. And when I missed it, back in those days, I lifted with a lot of anger. I had a huge chip on my shoulder from my lifting. And when I missed it, he goes, "Oh, you were that close, big man," right in my face. I went, "What did you say?" I go, 945, and I stormed off the stage. And, you know, we're using kilos. So he puts his head out the curtain. He goes, "Hey, you want 947? I go, "Whatever's under 945, just load the bar." And, you know, everyone's missing all their lifts trying to beat my 870. And then Ryan Kennelly, who used to be the world record holder as well, was going for a 903. If he hits it, he would take the lead. And by the way, this is for $10,000. So he misses it. And my training partner turns around to tell me I won. But before he could say I won, I was like, "Shut up, it ain't over yet." We wrapped my wrist. I went up there and got the lift off, come down, get a press. I blew it up, get a rack command, put in a rack. I look up at the lights. It goes red, white, red. And I kind of put my head down like, oh. Well, the sides judge gets up and asks the head judge, "Did you say rack it or take it?" And he goes, "Oh, I said rack it." And she goes, "Oh." 3 white lights. And I got to run off the stage and grab a crown out of my bag, because I was pretty sure I was going to do what I was going to do that day. Ran back, threw it on my head, jumped on top of the bench, and started screaming, "It's good to be the king!" And Mindy, who's recognized, right, was going nuts, going, "You can't change the lift, that's BS." And Gordon's like, "No, we don't want to change the call. They misunderstood that I said racket. They thought I said take it." So, funny story there.
That's awesome. So I got to ask you about records. I know Jack was saying you've broken your own record repeatedly. Is there what is the element of kind of psychological aspect of a number that's seen as either unbreakable by the powerlifting community or has just been unachievable for so long? I remember reading an anecdote once about a trainer who was a coach who was trying to get his student up to a certain weight, and he kept failing, like 5 pounds below it consistently. And in the end, the coach just added the weight and actually told him it was a lower weight, and he did it straight away. And do you ever come across that kind of psychological aspect where something that's deemed as unbreakable, once you've broken it, it almost seems not trivial, but a lot easier?
So if I heard you correctly, basically he lied to him for him to do the record, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've done that a lot in training with even my own team members and clients, all that. You know, if they think something's on the bar, they'll actually try harder, where if they didn't think it was there, it'd be different. But that is the part about records, is once you break the mind barrier and you see someone else do something, more people are going to do it. You know, Gene Reichert was the first guy to do 900 and 1,000. You know, back in the old days, people thought that would never, ever happen. And then he did it. And then, of course, you know, Ryan Kennelly did it, Scott Mendelson did it, and I did it. And now I'm not kidding you, I think there might be 15 people that have benched over 1,000 now. And now there's 4 of us that have benched over 1,100. And just recently, if y'all didn't hear, the guy I broke the record from was Jimmy Cole. And then Jimmy, Bill Gillespie actually came back, broke my record, but Jimmy came back and annihilated. Became the first guy to go 12 and 1,300. He did a 1320. The part that kind of kills me is in 2016, before I had my car accidents, in training, and sometimes I wish I never posted videos of training sometimes, because, you know, social media, everybody wants to see those things. But again, when you see things, you're going to try things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the benches are better, the bars are better, the plates are better. You make a better bar, you're going to have bigger lifts. It just all comes together. But the whole point is in 2015 to 16, before the accidents, I was benching 13, 14, 1,500 in training, but I wouldn't go do a contest because I wanted to get paid. And then 2017, I have 3 car wrecks in 5 months. I had all these injuries. It looks like I was never going to come back. And then I finally started healing up last year, and you finally got to see what you saw this year. And now, you know, I still wanted to be the first guy to get 12, which I almost got that, but just a freak accident happened at the show. I went for 1,200, and then Jimmy took full advantage of it, and he got it, you know, and you know, there were some people that was kind of upset thinking Jimmy shouldn't have jumped so high. And I actually saw Jimmy a few weeks ago at the Arnold Classic, and I told him my story, and I just said, you know, Jimmy, I'm gonna tell you right now, I go, if you can get it now, because you never know if there's tomorrow.
Wow. So you were doing 1,400 in training?
I was about 15. Actually, I did 1,500 training.
Wow.
You know, on YouTube, you might be able to find some of these videos. And you know, it was crazy weights with no disrespect to what's out there now, but the equipment wasn't as good as what it is now. And that's why you're seeing a lot more guys doing what they do. I mean, don't get me wrong, the equipment is there first and foremost for your safety, to protect you. But yes, if you learn it, it can give you a massive amount to your lift. But you got to learn it first. And some people might put a shirt on or a squat suit on or whatever, and they might absolutely hate the equipment because the way it feels, it is, I mean, there's a massive amount of pressure. And I don't care what anyone says. You put 1,200 pounds in your hands, that's 1,200 pounds on your hands. Wrist wraps isn't going to take the pressure away from what your hands are feeling. And trust me, mine are pretty destroyed for all these years of doing what I do. You can put all the lotion in the world on your hands, it doesn't make them smooth. It might be smooth for a few minutes, but then it's pretty bad, you know. So they feel like cinder blocks.
Now, you mentioned those the car accidents and some injuries, and I don't want to bring up like a difficult topic, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that recovery, because it seemed like that was a pretty big part of your story and coming back to break the world record again.
Oh yeah. So I got hit from behind twice and T-boned once, all in 5 months.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I tore my left labrum, which was actually my good shoulder, because my right shoulder I tore twice, once in football and then just a freak accident. but tore this labrum. I've never had surgery. The worst part of my accident is that it really shifted my hips, and to this day, I still have good days and really bad days where it really activates my sciatic nerve. When I walk, my right foot is kind of tilting out. So when that happens, it's putting pain on my knee, my lower back, so on. I mean, like I said, some days I have good days, and then I have a lot of bad days. So when I was trying to get back, I wouldn't have surgery on my shoulder because I knew too many people that have had surgery and never returned. And after tearing my right shoulder twice and return and never having surgery, I was like, I'm gonna do it again. But I definitely believe there's a big difference of being a teenager or a 30-year-old and have an injury and someone that's almost 50 and have an injury. You really just don't heal the same and as fast. And trust me, I was doing a lot of therapy, a lot of treatment. I take a lot of glucosamine from GLC products, which is probably the strongest glucosamine product in the world. But man, it was like I'm coming, and it felt like for a while I was never going to return because I just would not heal. So when I couldn't bench, I couldn't do legs. My business partner for the gym is Nathan Payton, who, if y'all know in England, Nathan's the nutritionist for Eddie Hall for the fight. He's the one to take Eddie Hall from 400 plus pounds to 370 and shredded. And almost everyone that's won the world strongman except for Thor, Nathan was their nutritionist. So I told Nate, I said, look, man, I'm not gonna sit around here and get fat. I go, if I can't bench or can't do legs, let's see about losing weight. And I went from 340 down to 277 pounds. And as soon as I started to heal up, I mean, as soon as I could feel 900 plus in my hands, my weight shot up to 300. And now, as I'm sitting here talking to y'all, I'm now about 330. But I still feel better than I did, when I first came around before the accidents and stuff. I still do a lot of cardio and all that. And to be honest, as soon as I do what I want to do next, the next goal is I want to try to get down to 275 or lower and see how strong I can be. And if it gets me records, fantastic. If not, whatever. But I do a lot of therapy. I do a lot of icing. I'm always icing my shoulders, whether I hurt or not. Every night I got ice packs on me. I ice my back. I get deep tissue. I do cupping. I do. We do some of the scraping and stuff, but every single week, twice a week, I'm in therapy.
The cupping where they put the cups on with that creates those rings that kind of pulls
with the heat,
Eastern medicine.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never tried that, but I've always wanted to. You
So
find
a lot
that
of times
effective?
they'll pump it up, they'll sit in you for a while, and then they kind of move it around to get the circulation going and stuff. But most of the stuff I do is more deep tissue. I don't do a lot of adjustments anymore, but I do a lot of deep tissue massaging. Try to get all the knots out, because if you got no knots, that's when you know the circulation is going well and you recover faster.
Gotcha. Awesome. Now, can I ask you another question? Because our audience there's a big overlap between business interest and fitness interest. And so one of the things I want to ask you is, you're obviously very competitive, when you're talking about having the crown and, and I'm wondering, now that you have your gym and you do training, and it looks like y'all are incredibly successful, kind of wondering if you're bringing, there we go.
That is awesome. Yeah, man, keep that on.
There.
Beautiful. Love it.
That's the video thumbnail right there.
So do you bring that competitiveness to business as well, and find that
not as much. I need to. I think I've always been kind of told that if I would put my as much as I train into business, I'd probably be really successful. So that's actually another route I want to look into. There's a couple of things I started making now that I'm selling, from the custom bench pads. I'm selling those right now. So hopefully stuff like that might take off and have another venue that I can go into. Maybe even retirement money.
Yeah. Well, it would be hard to be as competitive as you were in lifting. You know, that seems like you were going about 11 out of 10 all the time. So,
well, you know, to kind of go with what you said though, one thing I do love doing more than I actually do myself is I love the training part of it. I've trained over 90 world champions, and I probably have more satisfaction letting those people reach their goals and going beyond above what they ever thought they could do than I do for myself. It's just so much more gratitude. It's kind of like what we started this whole interview is, you know, people really don't realize how strong they can be until they learn proper form and technique. Once they learn that, the human body is incredible. I got a little boy, I've been training since he was 8 years old. When I say little boy, he's 24 now. But Michael weighs 115, and this show coming up that we're going to do, he will probably bench over 400 pounds, and he's paralyzed waist down. And I've been, like I said, I started training Michael. He was 8. He was doing his first shows at 10 years old. He's never lifted in the disabled, you know. So at 97 pounds, he was breaking the world records at 97, at 105, and 115. He's an amazing kid. But I hate to say it, but my last wife was 97 pounds. She benched 227. She was a world champion too, you know. So, but in my gym, we're about to have probably 3 people here benching over 1,000 pounds, and we've had a few people squatting over 1,000 as well. But you know, I have a lot more satisfaction coaching these days than I do my actual lifting.
Oh, that's incredible. How did you get hooked up with this kid who was 8, paralyzed from the waist down, and wanted to start lifting?
That's a good question. My first gym, I was involved with a church, and his father and mother were black belts, and they were teaching martial arts in the same building. And one day, Michael comes rolling in his wheelchair and he's like, "Hey, Mr. Tiny, can I lift weights?" And I said, "Well, how old are you?" He goes, 8. And I'm sitting there thinking first, man, that's kind of young. And then the back of my head is like, screw it. I said, "I'll see you Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And Michael's this, you know, really, really quiet kid. He goes around the corner and I could hear him going, "Yes, yes, yes." And from that point on, and you know, like I said, I was 8 years old. Mike's 24 now. I've never stopped training, but Mike's had probably over 15 surgeries in all these years. And every time he has to have some kind of surgery, he's always come back and got another world record and stuff.
Wow. That's incredible. That is incredible.
Yeah. So every time he gets sick or something, his mom's like, "Oh, you kind of worried about him taking a break." I'm like, "Who cares? He's going to come back and get another world record."
Wow, that's incredible, and really inspiring as well. And kind of makes me feel like a bit of a loser for not getting off my back more, and you know.
Sebastian, how come you're not lifting 220, huh?
Inspiration now, inspiration.
Yeah.
So I think we've got quite a few questions from the community. We kind of posted a week or 2 ago when you first agreed to do this, and we've had quite a few back. Some of them are slightly more quirky than others. Let's start with a kind of more a slightly more serious one. It's kind of a long one, so I'm going to read it verbatim. But how do you view the trade-off between strength and mobility? It seems a necessary part of lifting heavy weights that you inherently become less generally athletic. And he gives the example of an MMA fighter in his question. If the MMA fighter is an exemplar of general athleticism, to become narrowly powerful in the context of Olympic lifts, if the affirmation is taken, what type of syntheses between these two poles may be achieved? That is a very, very verbose question. I think we can shorten that slightly and just to ask, you know, generally talking about the trade-off, do you see a trade-off between strength and mobility, or do you think that's a bit of a myth? And where do you think that balance lies?
I think it's a myth because, you know, boxers, for example, a lot of them used to always think you shouldn't lift weights and stuff because it'll make you slow. I don't know where people have been lately, but if you go watch track and field, most of those track and field guys look freaking built like hell now, and they're the fastest they've ever been. I think the most important thing these days is nutrition. Take example, the combine for NFL. You saw the fastest combine ever. You had a guy that was over 300 pounds. I think he ran a 4.8 or a 4.7 or, I mean, just some crazy. He was hauling ass. But again, is you know, my flexibility issues are from my accidents. It's not from my lifting. I can still do the splits. I can kick very high. Now touching my shoulders and all that stuff, that's kind of a different story. Now I think when I decide to get, you know, back off and start dropping weight and all that, I think I will get more flexible, but I actually will work more on my flexibility. Right now, I kind of like to keep it stiff because I think it gives me more strength right now for my lifting. But as for all around sports, I think most people just they don't lift weights because they're afraid they're stiff. But let's take a baseball, for example. You take the steroid era, supposedly, which people don't know anything about the sport. Steroids were back in the 60s. It wasn't like it just mysteriously popped up in the 90s in baseball. So that's an absolute myth and a lie. The reality of this is this. None of those guys were like some freakazoid bodybuilder, gigantic guy. My problem is they probably could have got that big and strong, lifting naturally, training naturally, but the only reason they got them in the gym was because they were on drugs, and that's their excuse for doing drugs. That's the problem with a lot of people. You know, I used to work out in the gym. When I worked at the local gyms, you'd see guys come in, they're all jacked beyond belief, and all of a sudden, when they don't have their drugs, they disappear. You don't see them no more. That was their only excuse for being in the gym. You know, it's like, try it the right way, try it naturally, see how strong you really can be. You know, I don't care what sport it is. If you're going to play basketball, if you're going to lift weights, you go shoot the ball after you lift weights. If you lift and you don't shoot the ball, you're going to get stiff and lose your shot. Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods lifted weights, best golfer of all time, right? You have to lift and do whatever you're doing in your sport too to make it all come together. Football players always lifted weights. I mean, it's something new, but they also did their sport always. They just still did their running, track and field. It's all the same.
Gymnasts lift weights like crazy.
Real quick, guys.
Sorry, what was it?
Is there a way I can take a super quick break real fast?
Of course, no problem at all.
Just a second. I got to check on something.
No worries.
No problem. We can edit this however we need to. I think it's really interesting about the flexibility question because there is this kind of caricature, isn't there, of kind of muscle-bound athletes or muscle-bound, maybe more associated with bodybuilding than powerlifting. But I'm interested when he gets back to know, you know, does that flexibility come naturally to him? Does he incorporate some kind of routine?
What he was saying is totally right, though, where, you know, the linebackers in the NFL can run, they weigh 330 pounds, all muscle, and they can run sprints as fast, like close to as fast as Olympic sprinters. You know, it's like, you know, the amount of athleticism is absolutely incredible. But I think that a lot of times there is a trade-off, but there doesn't necessarily have to be. The other example, I talked over him when I said this, but gymnasts lift weights like freaking crazy. You know, they.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, the Olympic gymnasts, like, they'll have, like, you know, incredible biceps.
You really had to pee.
No worries. We just kind of kept talking about the flexibility issue, and Jack gave an example.
I was just saying that gymnasts hit the weights more than almost anybody, you know.
Well, I think a lot of their lifting is more body weight lifting, but you're absolutely right. The men are jacked. You know, they're in great shape. You know, but they're still doing lifting. How they do the lifting is a different story. You know, I still think some sports you're not gonna sit there and go max out like the crazy stuff we do. You know, maybe it's a little different, but so for anyone to think that if you lift weights you're gonna be stiff or slow, you're out of your freaking mind. You're only getting stiff because you let yourself get stiff.
It's it's fascinating for me because you know, I said to Jack, you do have that stereotype. There is that stereotype of the muscle bound, but maybe that applies more to you know, bodybuilding, or these guys who are jacking up and doping and stuff like that. But you know, going back to, you mentioned steroids and doping a little bit. Now, there's been quite a lot of scandals over the last sort of decade or so with Olympics and various doping scandals within competition. Is that something you've ever encountered? And have you ever felt cheated, or maybe cheated on behalf of one of your students when you maybe suspect that's happening in competition?
Good question. And I'm going to say no and yes. I'm going to say no and yes, because realistically, most shows that I've lifted and tested non-tested meets, most money contests are non-tested, and it's my decision to lift a non-tested meet or not lift a non-tested meet. That's my decision. So if I go and I got beat, I'm not gonna sit there and go, oh man, I was on drugs, he beat me. You know, I wear a shirt, I don't do raw, okay? And in the years past, because I wore a shirt and I was sponsored by the company, I was not allowed to, not only not allowed to lift raw, I was not allowed to talk about raw, okay?
Right.
So I wouldn't talk about how much, people would ask all the time, well, how much you bench without that shirt? 135. It was a joke, but I would never say, because I was obligated not to be able to say it, okay? But to me, the shirt is my drug. I would go against anyone with that shirt on. I just feel that I was invincible when I wear that shirt. I trained to be my best in that shirt. I didn't want a drug being my reason to I mean, take example what we said earlier. I'd see these guys come in the gym. When you saw them, they were all big and bad. When you didn't see them in the gyms, because they didn't have their drugs no more and they were all puny. I didn't want a drug to be my workout. I didn't want to have to depend on a drug. I could depend on that shirt because that shirt will always be there. Okay, so that makes sense. But no, man, I just don't, you know, if people want to do stuff, that's their decision. It's my decision to lift in that fed or not lift in that fed or that contest or whatever. So no, I don't really necessarily feel cheated. The only time I may have ever kind of felt cheated is maybe did a show where it was supposed to be tested, and man, how I want to say this, you know, for whatever reason, I've got world records of probably almost 15 different federations. So sometimes you can read stuff and people will sit there and go, Tiny Meeker never locks out or this and that. It's like, yeah, I'm the most kindest lifter in the world that everyone just loves and gives me gifts. Let me tell you. Okay. My point is, where I'm going is, when I go to these shows, especially the tested ones, for whatever reason, as soon as I walk in the door, Tiny Meeker's getting drug tested. What I had a problem with is there was a lot of meets I'd go to and other people weren't getting drug tested, and that kind of offended me. We actually did one years ago where myself, my training partner, another guy that came from a different fed came in. We actually all three bombed out the show. We all got picked for drug testing, but they didn't drug test any of the winners. So that was kind of BS, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that aspect I feel of it, but really, man, when I'm at my best, back in those days, I don't think anyone could beat me, no matter what you're on, no matter what you're wearing. I felt invincible.
Yeah, I'm looking here, and it's you have some records for drug-free. You know, quite a few. There's a lot of things that show up for you related to, you know, drug-free drug-free records, drug-free lifting, stuff like that. So it sounds like something that's been kind of important for you, which also makes me wonder why they were picking you out to test.
If you want to be politically correct, you should just say drug tested, not drug free.
Oh, sorry.
You know,
Right.
No, not the saying. A lot of people want to sit there and argue and say, "Hey, I don't care what you think." I was the all-time world record for a long time. I was being tested, and if you didn't believe I was clean, then test me or shut up. That's how my feelings were back then.
Wow. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on slightly. So, another question we've had: is there any truth to having shorter arms and less distance being an advantage when it comes to bench? And there's a follow-on question. And then he asks, are you familiar with Bobby Hopkins, an arm wrestler who held a record in the same feat at around 800 pounds?
Well, the funny part is when I searched Bobby Hopkins, I read a story about him supposedly having a run-in with the police, and he was bragging that he was a champion or weightlifter, but he only bench 600 pounds. So I don't know where the 800 pounds came from. So that's in the newspaper article I just read before we did this interview. So I've never heard of him before, and I didn't see no record of 800 pounds for him. So if someone wants to find that, they can let me know. Now back to the short arm question. You know, first of all, let's go raw first. In the raw records, the first man ever benched 700 pounds raw was James Henderson, who was 6'4". James weighed 420. He did not have short arms. Then Scott Mendelson came, who was at the time about 6'1". Scott again didn't have short arms. Scott benched 716, I believe. Okay. Then he had Eric Spoto came around. Eric Spoto was 5'11". Then he had a guy from Russia, Krill, who was 6'7", and he definitely didn't broke all-time record. And now we have Julius Maddox, who very soon might be he's the all-time world record holder. I think the record is 782, I think, right now. And very well might be the first man to bench 800. And Julius is almost 6'4". He's 460, 470. But there's a guy from Iran who many people just might think get 800 before Julius. In training, he's already done 804, but training lifts don't count, because if that was the case, then I would have already had 1,500 in training video. But is Daniel is his name. Daniel is 6'2", 385. So no, I don't think short arms make a big difference on that. Now, when we go into the shirts, there's a little different story. I still don't think it's about having short arms or long arms, because if it was about short arms, I got to be politically correct here. I don't know what you call short people anymore, or little people. But if that was the case, every little person would be the strongest person in the entire freaking world, correct? And last I checked, none of them have ever been an all-time world record holder. So
that's great logic right there.
Yeah. But when you learn perfect form and technique, like for example, people try to go, they think I have short arms. I have good technique and form. I have a good arch. I don't have a great arch, but I have a good arch. I learned to lift off my lats and my triceps, which is your strongest muscles. The lats is the biggest muscle in your entire body. I'm not lifting with my chest and my shoulders. That's how you tear a pec. That's how you tear your shoulders. Now, there's some people with the shirts that, because of the way they're built, and they were able to get in their position so well, that when they go to press the bar or actually bring the bar down to the chest, they're actually not bending their arms. They're just dropping their shoulders, able to touch their chest, and it goes up. It's a very, very short distance of movement, but they're only getting away with it because of the way they're built. Okay. And they're able to do the form. Jimmy right now, Jimmy did over 1,100 first in a single ply shirt, which I was the first guy to ever do 800 and 900 in a single ply. And, Jimmy went to switch to these band shirts, which we are wearing now. And to be honest, I really thought Jimmy wasn't going to do good in a band shirt first, because the way his form and technique was. But he learned how to do certain things in his training, which I may be a sensei, but I'm always a student, and I watch and observe things. And I actually saw and figured out what he was doing. And now look at Jimmy. He's probably going to bench over 1,400 very soon in the band shirt. It's incredible, but it's the form and technique. Does him having shorter arms help? Some ways I'll say yes, but at the same time, if you're a taller guy and you get more stretch out of the shirt, you should get more reaction too. But it's just a lot more pressure and distance you got to go. So no, I still don't believe in the short arm story. I think it's a myth. And just like most of your squats and deadlifts, most of those guys are over 6 feet tall that have the world records as well.
Sounds like you've gotten this question before.
I love that question. Now, something I got the question. I think people accuse me of the stupid thing all the time. Oh, he has short arms.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Firmly
Now,
busted.
I do have a question, because you've been bringing up this, raw versus shirts and the different types of shirts that can be used. It sounds like having these specific workout shirts are like, I mean, it seems to lend a big, be very helpful in this. How exactly does that work? As someone who's like, relatively new to this.
Well, again, you got to learn it before. Most people can't just go put these on and have a great lift. Most people will put a shirt on and absolutely hate them. And as the years have gone by, they have gotten definitely much more comfortable, because when we first got bench shirts, you'd put these things on and it would slice your armpits up like a razor blade. They were so uncomfortable, so painful. And but as the years gone by, they've definitely got more comfortable. And when I went from single ply to the multi-ply, which was the Phenom shirts, I used to go back and forth with all these different feds I would lift in. People had different rules, different shirts you could wear, stuff like that. And I'd always switch around. And then one day, when kind of like go back to your beginning question, I started to realize that I think I could go after the world record if I would just stick to one shirt and quit changing. But the other thing was I was so comfortable in this other type of shirt, I didn't want to go back anymore, These days, you got things out there called like slingshots and just the bands itself that people use for training. And once those people start mastering those things and start feel like they work, it's a good idea to go put a shirt on to go above and beyond that even more. You get what I'm saying? So if you learn a shirt, honestly, you could probably get 100, 200 plus out of it once you've learned it more on your bench. And if you learn to master it, you might be able to get 300 or 400 pounds more out of your lift.
Wow. I had no idea that they're that supplemental. You could get such a boost.
Well, when Eric Spoto had the record, and I think Eric's record was 722 raw, Eric talked to me on the phone one day and he told me that the most he ever tried in a shirt, he tried 855 once, and he thought he was going to explode. And again, it's because the pressure is so enormous. So he had a lot of respect for us, what we did, just like I have a lot of respect for what the raw guys do, because, I feel invincible with my shirt on because of my shoulder injuries from football and the car wrecks. I don't want to bench raw. In the old days, when I was healthy, every one of us would warm up to 600 plus in the warm-up room, go put a shirt on, and we might get 700 pounds, a 700-pound bench when we put it on. It was kind of a joke. These days, I know my body so well that I could warm up to 315, put a shirt on, and jump to a 900 to 1,000 pounds because now my body's warm and I know what I'm doing.
Wow. I think it's worth saying as well, this goes beyond health. I think you just hinted on it, but this is really punishing. I remember, I think it was Eddie Hall when he was going for the deadlift record a couple of years back. Like, I was watching it, and his blood vessels were exploding. He was bleeding when he was, lifting this insane weight, and it's a real punishing routine.
Well, there's a video out there you can look up. Ryan Kennelly, he's mentioned at the Mindy Classic, and blood shot out of his eyeballs and stuff. When he gets up, his whole face is just blood.
Wow,
it's pretty crazy.
Jesus, wow.
Yeah. I don't know what causes all that, but I've never been a bleeder, so there you
go. At what point do you think you say, maybe not with bleeding, but other tolls and injuries as well, where this is this is too much. This is unhealthy. Have you ever had a limit where you felt you were pushing your body too far?
For myself, no. The only thing I was dealing with the last few years was my body healing back so I could do what I love to do. That was our part. And now, I'm 50 years old. I've been doing this for 36 years. So now it's different because the body just doesn't heal the same after workouts. I've always done my training the same, where I've only done legs 1 day a week, back 1 day a week, bench 1 day a week. It's always a different routine. And of course, when you're away from shows, there's a lot of overloading. But I've done an excellent job over the years to not overtrain. I don't believe in peaking. That's a bodybuilding term in my mind. I believe
Mhm.
that you can overtrain, and if you overtrain, you're going to get hurt, or you're just not going to get what you want. You're over. You're done. You got to heal up. So for me, I have different numbers of what I want to accomplish now and how I want to accomplish. But when I was younger, man, the sky was the limit. I had no fear. I just wanted to go more and more and more and more. Now I just there's a part of me that kind of I want to try to go more and more, but look and feel a million times better. I just want to be healthy, and do this as long as I can in a healthy way. But I really want to do it a much lighter. I don't want to weigh over 300 after this year. My goal is to really get down to 275 and lower. And if I can continue bench crazy weight, fantastic. I'll keep doing it. If not, I just want to be happy and healthy.
It's good. I didn't realize there was such crazy longevity in weightlifting and powerlifting,
If you do
compared
it
to some
smarter,
sports. Yeah. Because there's so many sports where people age out, late 20s, early 30s. Most NFL players are, approaching retirement. Most basketball players are, approaching retirement. That it's amazing.
I think now, kind of like what we talked about earlier, nutrition is the key to everything. It's funny. You take the swimmer, Phelps. When Phelps was doing all that stuff, they were all talking about how much food he would eat and all that. You would never think that guy would be that shredded, with all the food he would eat. But again, it's all about the nutrition. My business partner Nathan, like I said, is the best. And I was eating donuts while I'm warming up, glazed donuts, get ready for my lift. And I didn't question Nathan about why am I eating donuts. I did what Nathan told me, and it was funny because I never crashed during the meet. I was energetic. It was a different feel than what I would normally feel when I was training. But I was eating donuts. I don't do pre-workouts. I don't drink energy drinks. I drink coffee in the morning, but that's it. But these donuts have me jacked.
It's okay. I've just realized these Q&As are so much fun, but the time always goes so quickly. I think we've got just a little over about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to fire off a few more quick questions, and then I'll ask Jack if he's got anything else he wants to ask you. So one of the questions we had, what is the value of a 1 rep max for normal people?
What's the value of it?
Yeah.
You accomplish what you wanted to do. To be quick about this, most of the time when I bench a lift, it wasn't to do it for a single. I love repping. Years ago, we used to do super lifting where we had to pause the weight like a normal contest. I did 800 for 4, 600 for 14. I love doing it's called super lifting. And to me, that made me a much better lifter. Now, dealing with my injuries now, now I do a lot more singles just because my body just takes it differently. But I never, ever did a lift that I only wanted to do one time.
I think this is semi-related because I think they're kind of getting at maybe does that value transfer into other areas of life? But we had a similar related question, which was, it's easy to see where discipline can be transferred to other areas of life that you learn from powerlifting. But have you ever found a use outside of powerlifting for short-term intensity? And he's put intensity stroke insanity. But has that kind of been a value in other areas?
Maybe when I was bouncing in bodyguard, you had to throw somebody pretty fast. That intensity and strength helped out a lot. Or trying to save someone that was stuck under a car or something to lifting the car up. So, there's things in life that you might have to do to save someone or protect yourself or others. That intensity and strength at a very quick rate helps greatly.
You read these stories. I don't know how much of it is true, but you hear these stories about people stuck under cars, and the adrenaline dump gives people just strength that they would never normally have. Do you think there's kind of truth to that, or?
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. I mean, just having certain things happen where you just there's other things in life when your adrenaline goes, you don't feel things that happen because you had adrenaline going. And of course, when it comes to saving someone and your adrenaline's going, I definitely believe that stuff. I've had it happen myself, you know.
Cool.
Do you have a story about that?
I mean, I've had a car flip over in front of me and stuff, and basically I pulled the people out real fast. That was many years ago, right after the gym, matter of fact. But nothing like where I'm picking the car off of someone. I haven't had that one happen. But, you know, I mean, you just don't think about what your, you know, car sideways and smoking and stuff like that. You just don't, your adrenaline takes over and you just do what you think is best you need to do.
Luckiest people in the world to have their car flip over, and Tiny Meeker is there to help pull you out.
But I wasn't this Tiny Meeker back then.
So yeah, real life superhero. So I think we've got time for one more quick question, and I know, Jack, you were excited about this one. Why did it take 10,000 years of human civilization for someone to bench over 1,000 pounds?
you know, it's funny is as the years gone by, and you look at some of the great athletes from many years ago, Bill Kazmaier and Anthony Clark and this and that. I still think a lot of times the knowledge of lifting is so much better, the nutrition's better, the equipment's better. When I say equipment, I'm talking about the benches, the plates, the bars, all those different things. When you have better stuff to lift on, like right now, I came up with a brand new pad for us to bench on. And it's a wide back support, but the leg area is narrow, which now you can plant your feet easier. It's not as hard on my hips. That was the big issue for me. And I think when my show comes up in May, you're going to see some more records get annihilated because people are going to be more comfortable lifting again. But just everything progresses. You have to see things to do things. And when more people see things, they believe that, hey, I think I can do that. I think I can try that. You know, I'll tell you a crazy story real quick. I lifted the Arnold Classic many years ago. It's one of the biggest things that we talked about. At the time, it was the biggest attempt ever, and it was a misload. I was going for a 1050 bench, and it was a 1250 misload. And just a long story short, when things happened the way it happened and I missed the lift, part of me didn't want to lift anymore because I was mad, figuring that it was done on purpose. Why would someone put 1250 on the bar? But then the crazy side of me kicked in and said, you know, I think I can bench that one day because I felt it. And that's what I'm saying is when you see it and you feel it, you'll start to believe in it. But if you never try it, social media, I can't stand these people. I will post a training video, whether I make a lift or not, and these idiots will go, oh, ego lifting. What the freak is ego lifting, okay? You know,
fuck them. Yeah.
Get stronger. That's the ultimate goal, to get stronger or to be healthier. So if you're not going to get stronger if you don't feel big weight. You got to feel big weight to lift big weight. If you want to call that ego lifting, what the freak ever, I don't care. But that's how you get stronger. You have to feel it to get bigger. You have to see it. It ain't just looking at it. You got to feel it. And once you feel it enough and you try it enough, eventually your body's going to adapt to it and it's going to do it. So there you go.
Yeah, I love that the sort of the realm of human possibility is something where it's, 1,000 seems impossible and then one person does it and then the next year 5 other people do it.
Yeah.
It's such this human nature thing.
I never thought I'd bench 1,000 pounds. I had a training partner, my training partner, Bobby Lights, left for over 10 years because he went to see his kids grow up. And when Bobby came back, I think when he left, we were both benching close to 8. I was benching 800. And when he came back, I was benching over 1,000. I even asked Bobby, did you ever think in your mind you would ever see us benching over 1,000 pounds? He goes, hell no. Well, guess what? Bobby's 58 years old. He's about to bench 1,000 pounds now. And now I'm doing what I'm doing. So again, it's because he's seeing it, and now because he's training and he's feeling it, he's going to accomplish this goal and beyond now too. But again, if you don't see it and you don't feel it, it'll never happen. Look at swimmers and runners. Who would ever think they would swim so fast or run so fast? But now more guys are doing it because they see it, and their training's different, their diet's different. All those different factors come in.
It reminds me of the 4-minute mile, which, was considered impossible, and then it got broke, and then it got broke by dozens, if not hundreds of people.
Look at guys dunking. Who would ever think you'd have so many people dunking now? In the old days, almost, you had junior high kids dunking more now than ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The psychology of it is fascinating. I think the psychology is one of the most underexplored. I know it's become a lot more in depth sort of last 20, 30 years, but really I think the potential of what people can achieve, not just in powerlifting, but in every area, if we can learn how to unlock the mind a little bit more, I think we'll just see phenomenal increases in all kinds of records.
BMX bike riders doing backflips, it's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Once you see it, anything's possible.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go try that though. Okay, I'm just letting you know. I'm not going to get on a bike.
I want to see that. I think we're just about coming up to time here. But Jack, did you have any last questions for Tiny?
No, I'm just kind of curious what's next for you as a lifter and for the business and everything. What do you got coming down the pipeline?
May 14th, I'm putting on the IPA Bench Press Worlds, the IPA Powerlift Full Power Worlds, and the IPA Push Pull Worlds. And on the same day, I'm putting on the second Baddest Bencher on the Planet contest. I invited 9 lifters from mostly from the U.S. We got one from the U.K. Everyone in this invitation list had to bench over 1,000 pounds to get in the contest. They'll all make a little money if they make a successful 1,000. And the top 4 will get $10,000, $5,000, $2,500, and $1,000 for their placings. I'm always still looking for sponsors, so if anyone wants to look and sponsor into that, please contact me at tinymeeker.com, and I'll send a sponsor letter out and let you know what we're still raised. We will be on ESPN2, and that will air in August. But I'm expecting to see 13, 14, possibly even 1,500 pound attempts this year. Last year, the winning lifts were 1090, 1085, 1080, and 1025. So this year, I think it's going to be much, much crazier. As for myself, even though I'm now not the first guy to bench 1,200, I still would like to see 12. And, I think me hitting 13 is definitely very possible. And then after that, my ultimate goal is to try to go down each weight class and hit over 1,000 pounds in each weight class that I can go down into. And that's my next goal from this point on for me.
Awesome.
Oh, that's incredible. And that bench press contest sounds awesome. I can't wait to watch that when it comes out.
Is there a link to that on your website, Tiny?
You go to ibenchyourtotal.com. All awesome. One word. ibenchyourtotal.com, and if you don't get the joke, that means I bench press what you total in all 3 lifts.
Oh,
will do. And for those watching on our YouTube channel, we'll post a link to not only the competitions, Tiny's website, and we'll post a link to a couple of Tiny's world record attempts as well in the comments.
Thank you. And like again, if anyone out there would like to be part of the sponsoring, just email me at tinymeeker@gmail.com. I'll send you a sponsor letter out, and then what anyone can help us on, we greatly appreciate it to make this show bigger and better. And hopefully next year it'll get even bigger. But that's my other goal, is to get our sport on national television, which I did. The next goal in my life, business-wise, is I would like to see us where we're actually making more real money in our sport. I mean, you got guys in strongman making $100,000+ for winning their shows. We're holding 1,300 pounds over our face. I'm gonna say this, because I know you got to go, but you take the bench, squat, and deadlift. Okay, anything goes wrong on the squat, drop it off your back. Anything goes wrong on the deadlift, you can just drop it on the ground. Where are you going to go if you're benching, something goes wrong and it's holding over your face? We are the real daredevils of our sport. I mean, I just did a video not too long ago. I was attempting 1200, and the first time in my entire lifting career, it rolled out of my hands. When 1200 pounds falls, no one's catching it. My body took the hit. It ripped my thumb open and all.
Wow.
But I mean, we are the true daredevils of this sport, and I think we really definitely should make some money in what we do. It is amazing the lifts you're seeing now, and again, you're going to see 12, 13, possibly 14, 1500 attempted in the baddest bencher on the planet contest this year.
Wow. You heard it, guys. If there are any CEOs watching or anyone in marketing departments of corporations, get in touch with Tiny, man.
Please
sponsor this bench press contest. It's well worth it. And you make a great point too. It's when you're holding it above your face, and I love that quote, nobody's catching 1200 pounds.
Yeah. Wow.
No, bad things happen fast, and trust me, when that comes out of your hands, it's flying. Hopefully it won't happen. Last year we had a 1200. I think Scott dropped 1115 last year, and like I said, I just dropped 1200 in my last show, and has never happened in my lifting career, and I hope to God it never happens again either. I have no idea why it did. It just spun, and hopefully it never happened again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fingers crossed, man. There you go.
Well, man, it's been so nice talking to you. This has been fascinating. Awesome. Like great stories. And yeah, can't wait to see all this, to see this progress. This is incredible.
Well, I greatly appreciate the interview. I hope everyone else liked it out there too, and can't wait to do it again.
Absolutely. Right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tiny. It's been a pleasure. I know the community is going to get a lot out of this, and yeah, I'm looking forward to following your progress. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Take care, Tiny.
Guys.
Thanks again. Really appreciate it.